Control flow statements in Python. Conditional and looping constructs. A program's control flow is the order in which the program's codes, that is, individual statements, function calls, etc., are executed. Without control flow statements, a program is simply a list of statements that are executed sequentially one by one from top to bottom. With control flow statements, we can control or regulate the flow of a program. We can execute certain block of codes conditionally using conditional statements such as if-else, or repeatedly using looping statements such as for loop and while loops. Function calls also control the flow of control. In this lesson, we will learn about the conditional and looping statements in Python. Most of the modern-day programming languages uses three types of control flow statements. 1. Sequential, execute the code sequentially from top to bottom. 2. Conditional or branching, execute a block of code based on some condition. 3. Repetition, execute a block of codes repeatedly as per instruction. Let's begin with sequential control flow. Sequential statements are executed one after another from top to bottom. It is the default control flow. No branching or repetition happens. Here is an example in Python. During execution of this code, the statements are executed one after another from top to bottom. No branching and no looping. Now let's dive into branching or decision control statements. In Python, we may use if, if-else, if-else, nested if, and match case statements for controlling the flow based on one or more conditions. These constructs allow us to execute a particular block of statements based on whether the condition is true or false. Let's begin with if statement. The code is easy to understand. Just follow me along while I code. Notice that, when we enter an even number we get an appropriate output, but for odd numbers, we don't get any response. This is because we didn't mention what to do if the number is an odd one. Here is a rough flowchart of the code. We may also mention what to do if the condition is false using the else block. Now we will get appropriate responses for both even and odd numbers. Now the flowchart looks like this. You have learned to use the if and if-else statements, and here is the syntax that you have already used. Please note that indentation is very important. The block of code within the if block and the else block must be indented properly. Also, don't forget to put a colon after the condition and the else keyword. The if block will be fired if the condition is true, otherwise, the else block will be fired. We may also use the logical operators in our conditions. For example, consider the following code snippets. Another very important construct for decision making is if, elif, else. Here is the syntax. Here, the conditions 1, 2, 3, etc. will be evaluated one by one, and the block of code corresponding to the condition that is evaluated as true first will be executed. If none are true, the else block will be executed. As an example, consider that we will accept one's age and determine whether he or she is a kid, a grown-up, a young, in his/her 40s or 50s, or a senior citizen. Just remember that, here elif stands for else if. Structural pattern matching has been added in the form of a match case statement in Python 3.10. It is like switch case statements in other programming languages. It is a very powerful construct. Here I will show you only a simple example. For more details, you are advised to watch the lesson as linked in the I button or as available in the description. For time constraint and for keeping the code simple, I'm unable to include the greetings for the other countries. I will be really happy if you greet me in your own language in the comment section. The generic syntax of the match case statement is shown on the screen. We may match more than one patterns using the pipe character for taking the same action for these patterns. If no pattern matches, the action for the wildcard pattern denoted by an underscore is taken. We have covered the conditional statements, now let's move to the looping statements. In Python, we may use the while loop and for loop for this. Let's start with the while loop. Before I explain anything, just observe these examples. Oh no, this is an infinite loop, as the value of count is always 1, we need to change this so that the loop terminates. Now the value of count will increase by 1 in each iteration, and the condition count less than or equal to 10 will be false, and the loop will terminate. Here is another example. Here, initially, the value of n is 1. First, n is printed inside the loop, then it is incremented by 1. This goes on and on until n is more than 10. When n becomes 11, the loop ends. Now let's consider this example. Now let's consider this program that adds the number from 1 to 100. Now let's check the syntax of the while loop. A while loop may also have an else part, but it is optional and rarely used. Here is the flowchart of the code as shown on the screen. These statements inside this box is executed repeatedly as long as the condition n is less than or equal to 100 is true, and it is known as the body of the loop. Here is an example of else block in a while loop. We may use the keyword break for breaking out of the loop even if the looping condition is true. Here the loop will break as soon as n becomes 3. Although the actual looping condition is n greater than 0. We may skip one or more iteration of the loop body using the keyword continue. The keyword continue moves the control of the program to the start of the loop and ignores the statements that comes after continue. Now let's move to our last topic, for loop. The syntax is shown at the bottom left corner of the screen. Here the range function generates a range of numbers. Range 5 generates the number 0 to 4. So, the loop body is executed 5 times. The range function is very useful in loops. You may watch the lesson as linked in the I button or as available in the description for more details on it. Now let's see few more examples. Just follow me along while I code, these are very easy to understand. Like the while loops, here, too, we can use the break and continue for the similar purposes. For loop can be used very conveniently for accessing the individual elements of iterables. Here are a few examples. Here the for loop accessed the elements of the list one by one from left to right and stores the current element to the variable flower. Inside the loop, this variable flower is printed. Fantastic! Isn't it? We can use this type of loop for any kind of iterables, be it a list, a tuple, a dictionary, a string, etc. Optionally, a for loop may have a else body also. Here is an example. The else part will be executed when the loop terminates. We may use a while loop or a for loop for the same purpose. Here is an example. Look, both the loops giving the same output. That's all for today's lesson. If you find this lesson helpful, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your valuable feedback is important for me and will help me improve the contents of the channel. Thanks for watching up to the end. Hope to see you in the next. Bye.